Facts and opinions. CNN came out with a report saying that Charleston, South Carolina apologized for their role in slavery.
Hours of debate, and the vote split 7-5 on whether to apologize for the city's role in slavery. They decided to apologize. So the Charleston City Council agreed to do this, and then they issued an apology.
80% of African Americans can trace their roots back to Charleston, South Carolina, which is not surprising because in Miami, a lot of people from the generation before us, or a couple generations before us, a lot of their parents are like Geechee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which goes back to Charleston, South Carolina area. So it wasn't surprising. It was just a big number. They said that slave ships docked and unloaded at least 100,000 slaves. They said the city hall was built by slaves. And also keep in mind, Charleston, South Carolina is where the church shooting happened, and is the state that's in between with removing the Confederacy too. A lot of history in Charleston, South Carolina, if you're not familiar with Charleston, South Carolina.
And they did it on Juneteenth. They said 40% actually of the people that can trace their roots back to Charleston or just any of those ports. But Charleston specifically, they said that they are, what did they say? We are sorry for the role that Charleston played in the Atlantic slave trade. Blase, blase, blah. They did it on Juneteenth, which, does everybody know what Juneteenth is? Juneteenth is the day that Texas and Galveston, the Navy showed up and let them know that they were free. Actually, they had been free for 2 years prior. Well, the slaves had all over the country, but they didn't know because the farmers wanted to reap another harvest for the season, so they didn't let them know so they could get all their stuff done before they let them know that they were free. So on Juneteenth, Charleston issued this apology. So what does that mean? Admission of guilt means what? That you are owed something, right? I mean, that's the first step. So what do? Do we all move to Charleston and live there for free? Like, what's the next step?
As long as we get our 40 acres in the mule, I'm cool.
Are we all going to get 40 acres out of that one city? Because it's not like the whole state. It's only that one city that apologized.
Right. But I think it'll start a trend. I think slowly but surely it'll start a trend and it'll be progression. But the way I look at it, too, is also this. I mean, I look at it more so like a relationship. You know how you build a relationship with somebody you know that was an asshole, and then 5 years later down the line they want to come back and say, you know what, I did this, that, and the third. And it's like, okay, like, it's 5 years later. Like, I done moved on with somebody else, and I done went through the healing process already. Not to say that we're fully healed from slavery, but just to say it's just like, damn, like, come on, like, how many years ago was that? Y'all just giving us an apology? I mean, I'm not saying they wrong or it's a bad thing, but I mean, put some action behind it.
But people were really getting mad though. The thing that got me was that people were really getting mad, like, why are we apologizing? We didn't have anything to do with it, blah 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 blah. Like, that's the thing that got me. Like, why not apologize?
Absolutely. Because
apologizing would mean that you feel guilty and that you are owed something.
It's a part of acceptance. It's part of acceptance, and I feel like that Confederate, mentality has a lot to do with that. I mean, the one positive that I can also see out of this is that they're building an international African American museum in Charleston, South Carolina, which kind of goes hand in hand with Alabama building that lynching memorial. So, like I said, slowly but surely, we're seeing things, we're seeing progression, and I just think for the millennials and going forward, they need those visuals, they need those museums, like when
absolutely.
Professor Daddio was here, and he was saying how when you go to the museum here in Atlanta now, you can actually sit on the counter and put the headphones on, and you can visualize it, you can hear it. I think we need that.
Dude, I mean, we need that. I think everyone needs that. I think that every culture, I think that Caucasian Americans, I think they should go and see it too. I mean, we hear the stories and we have all the nightmares that go down from generation to generation. And like when we get caught up in those immigration talks and stuff like that, like we should understand. I mean, that's why a lot of us can't trace our roots, because when our ancestors were brought here, they were ripped from the arms of their mother. They were sold. If your mother had 2 boys, maybe one plantation needed one and the other one needed another one, you were sold to the highest bidder. So I mean, we could empathize with that, because look, we are living testament of what that means. We have to go to these African ancestry sites to even find out where we came from. Right. So I mean, we should be able to empathize with that. And also too, I'm going to say this, because it was 7-5 vote for Charleston to apologize. Whether you believe that it was right for them to apologize or not, the reason for them not apologizing was crap. So the city council members, pay attention. If you live in that area, and I always say everyone, watch who you elect for city council, because when it came up to this vote, some of them had trouble for apologizing. It was 7-5. They almost, I mean, it was like they fought tooth and nail to not do this.
It wasn't even like it was.
It wasn't like a
Was Charleston the city that what city was taking down the Confederate statues? Was that Charleston?
That was Columbia.
Oh, that was Columbia, but that was South Carolina. Though,
yes,
right? So it seemed like South Carolina
has a deep. That's where the St. Emmanuel.
Columbia is the capital.
Columbia is the Charleston is but that's where the church shooting happened, and we see how that kid had those Confederate flags and stuff. Like, the Confederacy, there are people in this country that feel really, really deeply about that. I mean, it's a part of their heritage. That's why everywhere you go, even in Cobb County, you see the Civil War Heritage Trail. Like, they hold on to it, and we have to look at that stuff and like deal with it all the time.
But even though it's late, like GT was saying about the action, I mean, with that being said, I kind of see South Carolina taking action behind it. Like, they might not be giving us the 40 acres and the mule or nothing monetary right now, but they I feel like they slowly trying to make it better, I would say. Moving that history, apologizing.
Because that's one of them states, man, that
this
just,
all happened within the last year.
Right,
so,
right.
They making those steps, and hopefully, other states in the South catch on and follow suit.
Absolutely. I mean, okay, so the resolution passed on Tuesday calls for the creation of a city office on racial reconciliation. So what they're trying to do is bring people together to talk about stuff like this, racial reconciliation. What's the problem that you have with me? Let's debunk some of those myths that you might have about black people. Let's debunk some of those myths that you might have about white people, because as much as we say that they, don't mess with us like that, there's a lot of us that don't work around or go to school with or interact with other races.
And that's something that I would love to bring to the show eventually, to have, a white supremacist come on the show. If they willing, and like just to have a talk. Because it's
there's a lot of them on our page that like to argue with me. So why don't y'all come on down?
Because it's psychological. All of this is psychological, and I just feel like I said, with the museums and just like with the visuals, and you actually going through that stuff, I think that can alter the way a person think or the way that a person can move. I just think when you're taught something, when you're just taught something, or you just hear somebody saying something, you're gonna automatically go with it. Like, oh, my dad did this, so this is the right way. Or my grandmother did this.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
that's what happened. You know what I mean? That's exactly what happens. They pass down all that stuff from generation to generation. You see little kids waving Confederate flags. Like, do you even know what you're doing?
Yep. I seen a video of a mixed guy in a car, and the white lady had her children calling him a nigga from outside the car, because she was mad because he pulled up to the gas station waiting on his white mother. She didn't even know the man's mother was white, and she got mad because he pulled up, and she said he almost hit the kids, or he was disturbing the kids or something like that. And I was just like, wow. That's how we raise our kids.
When I see black people that have Confederate flags and stuff and that represent that, a lot of black people did fight in the Confederate War. Fight for the Confederacy during the Civil War. So it's like, but did they want to, or did they have to?
From what I learned, because I felt the same way you felt, Kim. From what I learned, a lot of them actually had the choice to fight, and they chose to do it because, remember how we were talking about 400 years of slavery being a choice? A lot of them made a choice to do that because they didn't want to change. They was afraid. It was like, well, if I do become free, what options am I going to have? How am I going to provide for my family when I can work for this man? Maybe I'm not getting money for it, but you know what I'm saying? He provided me with a home. He provided me a shelter. You know what I mean? Maybe from time to time I gotta.
The issue what I have with that is that when you say, you know, slavery was a choice and your choice was either to die or to do what they wanted you to do, mm-hmm. the people that chose to live did so for us. You know what I mean? If your ancestors decided on death, you wouldn't be here.
I get it.
So if for no other reason, we still have to honor their decision to do what they did, because if not for them, we would not be here.
And that's why I think with that topic, I don't think it's a right or it's a wrong answer. It just depends on who you talking to and how you think about it. Like, I mean, there's options. Let's just say that there's options with everything that we do in life. And I mean, that's just one of them questions. Like, you know, some people gonna agree to disagree, and some people just gonna hate the other person.
But I mean,
I
think that if you apologize, it's a step toward healing. I mean, granted, you know, it's a little bit too late unless they talk about giving people money or something like that, unless other states get on board. But it's like a process. It opens up and it starts the conversation. Any opportunity that you have so that you can start that conversation, as long as it's not tragic. It's like we wait until somebody does all this stuff and then we want to talk about it. Let's prevent all of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good idea that they did that. What do y'all think? You think it was a good idea for them to apologize? You said yes.
I mean, I like it. I like it. I don't think it was a bad thing, but I think with a lot of people, they just like, come on, man. Like, how many years later is it? You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people, instead of apologizing, they would rather see action. Like,
yeah, they're gonna do that, and we're gonna get some action.
What you gonna do behind that apology? You know what I mean?
Well, reparations would be better. We agree on that. But apologizing is nice. That's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted. That'll be one of our follow-up items, which who knows what that means, because that's gonna change nothing without any money.
Right, and make sure
property.
Make sure you go to the Connecting the Dots page, and if you want to read up on this, or you could go to CNN.com and read up on this article. Definitely something that you should discuss.
Yeah, all of us.
So